I went into my garden and I did some close-up shots or shots from a different angle just to give me some ideas. And then I've gone onto A2 sheets of paper and I've done some sketches. They're sketches of things that have attracted me. You could say that they're fairly rough sketches, but I have put a little bit of preparation in. I've done a colour chart of what colours I'm going to use because I wanted to reach the colours that I wanted. I've tested a little bit. I was thinking in terms of the fence and other things here and here, some of the colours that I wanted in the leaves. So I haven't just gone in completely blind. If I was going outside sketching and I was using A2 sheets of paper, I'd just be taking a generalised palette. But here I've got lemon yellow, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, Payne's grey, Prussian blue, white and cadmium red, but it looks like, so I think it's cadmium red, scarlet. It doesn't really matter because when you do it, I'm not expecting you to use the same colours as me, and this is part of my process and not everybody's going to be interested, but I thought you'd be interested to see what I do. So from some of these, I've done sketches and I've been looking for shapes. So the shapes here are from some of the repeated shapes that I talked about in the first part of this art in practice, and then there's other parts where it's like petals or things that I've actually seen. So for example, this looks like it's a random shape, but some of this has been inspired by the collage that we did in the live workshop. So some of these shapes, but also by shadows or reflections I've seen. And I've used some oil pastels on here as well as acrylic. And this is just cartridge paper, it's not expensive paper. This is my second one that I did. You can't see it all very easily, but I've taken some photographs. I will try to show you. This, I don't normally do this, but I have done. It is more of a what actually was there at the time, but it's still quite a rough sketch, and I'm trying to bring out some of these things that I found interesting. So I actually found the bark very interesting. When you looked up through the canopy, you could see the blue, and there was just lots of lines about which I've put in. The shapes of the leaves, I've just given a rough shape. Something else I wanted to point out is I did use some sepia ink just to get things going as well. And you can see some of this is pastel and oil pastel. This was the first one I did, and often the first one you do looks a little more scrappy, but you just go with it because we're going to collage from these, so it doesn't have to be perfect. This was about the texture on the rocks, it was about the flowers against the fence, and some of these buds, there we go, some of these little buds which I found quite pretty, and I think will come into the final pieces. Now when I say final pieces, this is still sketchbook work. I'm going to use the sketchbook that I was using for the live workshop. As I move forward with these pieces, I tend to be inspired by the one before, and I'm just going to put this here. What I do now is I've got a blank sheet of paper here, and I'm working from, you can see these sheets are A2, and I'm working onto an A3 sheet, which means that you're cropping and making it smaller. This makes the brush strokes larger and more expressive. What I've got here is quite a long, because it will go as big as the A2 sheet of paper, metal ruler, because I use that to cut things up. And I've got a couple of pieces of paper here, and I'm just going to show you how I do a third one. So this is from the just a sheet from the A3 sketchbook, and you can literally, you don't need to cut with scissors to get a straight line. Now what I can do with these, now I've got these sheets of paper, is I can use them to decide what I'm going to start off with as my collage base. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a whole collage base, and then I'm going to go on top of it. And because each sketch, although each sketch is different, and usually I would probably sit in the same place. If I was sketching in the landscape, I'd perhaps look in one direction, look in another direction, see what interests me, get everything down. But what I have done, because it's slightly different, because I'm inside, what I've done is I have got photographs of the garden from different parts of the garden, but I'm going to use the same palette. So I'm just deciding with this one. I really like that diagonal there. Do I go out there? Yeah, I'm tempted to go down there and just catch the edge of that. Yeah, let me just have a look at a couple more, because this is... I'm also wondering whether this could be a good base, and then we can bring things on top. So this is where... So I'm thinking I do really like that leaf, but I could bring it in. And this is where you have to not be too precious about the things that you like as well. So I'm looking to see whether that's quite a nice base as well. Let's look. Yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm looking at the width of it here, and I'll just do this now. So now I've got this base, I'm going to glue it down. This is one of my A3 sheets, and I'm just going to chop that in off. One side to help with gluing and getting the glue over the edges and just getting glue everywhere. And the other side will be for pushing the glue down, you'll see in a minute. So I'm just getting plenty of glue on. And I'm just going to use a palette knife, or you can use a brush. So let's just, now what I'm trying to do is get it off the edges, because we want to glue it up down everywhere. And whilst it's still wet, right, I'm going to just place it on my clean sketchbook. Move that out of the way for reuse, and just line it up. Get my clean sheet, which is the other half of that A2 sheet. Move it slightly at the minute. Strong PVA, because I am actually using quite thick sheets. So now we're left with this sheet of paper, which is quite nice on its own, but I really liked this part. Now, do I put this back into here, or do we start using other bits of paper? And this is where you can start doing things like lining lines up, or just saying, okay, what is it that I'm liking on this sheet of paper, or what is it that I feel like needs to be highlighted here. This has got quite a lot of good dark and light contrast. I like things to go from an edge to an edge, or to have a tear, so that it's not quite such a straight edge right in the middle of a painting. What we can do is we can rip one way, and if you rip one way, can you see that edge? You get a white, see if I can put it against something. You get a white leading and a white edge, or you can rip that way and you get a tear, but you don't show that white edge. So it depends what you want. And sometimes, I quite like the edge, but sometimes if you've got an edge like that because you've done it by accident, you can just remove it like this. And I certainly feel like I wouldn't want, there we go. Let's just have a look what that's like on here. So if you look there, and then we look here, I think it's quite interesting. About if we do this. And this, so because we were losing the branches and gaining the branches because of the leaves, so that's quite interesting. Let's just turn it round, see what happens on this side. And I think I am going to put that there, but I'm going to rip it here. Oh, I like that bit here. So we've got some of this showing. And this is where you really have to not worry too much about, yeah. So here we go. That's without, and this is with. I'm actually joining up these lines here to this branch, and I'm going to take off this edge. So even though this is one of my favourite bits, it's going, because I'm not being precious and because I'm trying to look for new and interesting compositions, and I think that's quite interesting. And it also leaves me with this piece of paper that I could use perhaps somewhere else. It's whether I use it here or not. Maybe. So I'm going to glue this down. The next part of this, once you've got it all glued down, I've just glued a few of the edges again, is to pull all of the lines together. For example, here we've got, I'm just going to highlight, bring across a few of the lines that are already there, but just ensure that they pull together. And there's a few things like this here. I'd quite like that to join it to there, for example. So I'm just going to run that off there. And here, even though I've got this line here and that is a different line, I'm going to continue with this line going off. Oh, I didn't mean to do that onto there. So all I'm doing here is bringing the collage pieces together. I'm just going to get an orange. Oh, there we go. Just bringing a couple of pieces in. Essentially unifying the piece. And this is more refining everything. And I'll do the same here. So even though it's obvious that there's a change, it's just pulling it together. And what happens is you get a much more original composition. And it has got a lot of the feeling from being there. I think that because there's still a little bit here, I am wondering whether I want this piece here. Now, what I haven't done is, oh yes, I think I might have done. This, I think, was from the other sheet of paper. So this is where you can actually start looking, and you can, if you felt that, you know, something needed darkening or lightening, you could not just go from the sheet of paper that you had in the first place. You could go from any of these sheets of paper because all of the colours are the same. And so because all of the colours are the same, then it doesn't matter which piece of paper you bring in. It's all from the same garden, it's all from the same time. And so I could put extra if I felt that I wanted to, but I could bring in from this large sheet. But I don't think I want to. I think it's fine. I'd love you to have a go at this. Have a go, but only if you feel that it's something that you might try. I'm very tempted as well now. So it starts to give you other ideas. So even though that wasn't an original part of this, I'm just thinking that it would be nice to have a leaf here, and it will start to give you ideas, and then you'll get more of an original composition. So have a think, go for it. You can even take paint back in if you want to, but I often don't really do that at this stage. And then this can be, I do still feel like I want this somewhere. The reason I want it somewhere is because the canopy was coming down. The thing I really like is this. So I think if I just take that off, yeah, I'm going to put that in there. So one idea will lead to another. Enjoy it and let us know what you've done. Right, I'm putting that in there. So often I take things off the edge, but if you see something and you think, oh no, I'd really like to put that in, do it. Just do it. You're finding out what you want, and this is not a completed piece. This is just a piece for your sketchbook, but it might inform a completed piece later, which is the whole point of it. I don't know whether to put it there. Yeah. I'm going to put it to the edge and then work into that. Yeah, I am. Now I've had that idea, now I'm thinking, oh, I could just put that in here as well. Yes, I could. And so, where's my little ruler? This is the big ruler. Even when it's quite a small piece, you just have to give it a bit of a, yeah, make sure you hold that firmly and yank it a bit. And what I don't want with this is to have this very straight edge. So I'm just going to rip it a bit. It's okay, a straight edge at the edge. And I'm taking off that leading edge. And we're joining up with that we've just drawn. Yeah, I'm definitely putting that in there. So, glue. And although it takes a little while, I love doing this bit. And line it up. That's what I wanted to do, yeah. And we're literally abstracting from reality. There we go, finished piece. I hope you enjoy. Maybe you can have a go at something like this. It doesn't have to be abstracting from nature. It could be anything. But I do really quite enjoy working in this way. And it gives me ideas to move on to the canvas at a later date as well. But there's no reason that these can't be put in frames. So I'm going to say bye for now, and I'll put a few pics in the art cafe when I've finished the other ones of my sketchbook. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video.